What's going on, Straight Talk faithful? It's your host, your boy, George Mackay, back in studio today for another great pre-recorded interview. Man, oh man, do I got somebody special. By the time this episode drops, he'll have been the champion for a few weeks, but he was just recently crowned a couple days ago, and I'm very excited to have him to the show. Please welcome the new, reigning, defending NWA Television Champion, Zicky Dice.
Oh, man, you know what? I got to stop you. You got to do that last part again. It sounds so good to hear. Let me hear you say it one more time, please. Please.
The reigning, defending NWA Television Champion, Zicky Dice.
Outlandish Zicky Dice. Straight Talk Wrestling just got outlandish. George, how you doing today, baby?
I'm doing great, baby, man. I'm a huge fan, and it's an absolute honor. And, you know, congratulations on the win. It was a fantastic match with you and Ricky Starks, and I'm happy you came out of it with the gold. I got to be honest.
Interview is champion. Did you know that?
I did.
We can just state that for the record. So this is my first ever huge championship win, and this is the first ever huge championship podcast.
I like it. I love being the first of first. So to that, sir, I thank you. It's an honor.
Yes, we're popping each other's cherries.
Absolutely, 100%. So you know what? Let's get into that right away. Talk to me about that match. I mean, you're talking epic. You're talking epic proportions. You're talking literally a title on the line. Going into it, you were laser focused. I watched that match. I actually watched it earlier this morning in preparation again for this interview. And I got to say, man, there was not a disappointing point of that match. I loved everything, the story you guys told. And you and Ricky, you guys have some fantastic chemistry.
Thank you. Thank you. I am very stoked to be in this program with Ricky. You know, man, it's hard to wrap my head around. So if you get me pausing for a second, I'm still trying to process everything that's happened in the last few days. I think it's only been 48 hours since the episode aired. Now that we're talking, but I gotta tell you first off the bat, what you see in that match you're talking about was literally 15 minutes after the match that you between him and Matt Cross. I don't know if you know, we film a whole season within a weekend. So it was like we were back to back. You know, we went straight into it, and just seeing now, it's like it's all been a blur. You know, so I go back and I watch Power every week live with everybody else. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what happened. Oh, yeah. Because it's more like I read this interview once of like Angus Young when AC/DC would go on stage, he would black out and not remember anything. That's like almost how it is for me. So I literally do not remember most things that I say and or do. I definitely did remember pinning Ricky Starks for the 1, 2, 3. How could I forget that? And, you know, keeping that on the hush for 5-6 weeks. It's been very interesting, to say the least. But I'm very happy to be, you know, Ricky's excellent performer, excellent wrestler, and great talent. And, I mean, I think we make for some damn good television.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I love the NWA product. I love the resurgence. I'm a big fan of the classic styles. I was a big fan of, WCCW and NWA back in the day. I mean, mind you, when I got into it, it was already pretty much gone. And WWF at the time was literally the only game in town, and WCW was around too. But going back and watching how classic and how sleek it looks and how fantastic, you know, the resurgence is and how they put it all together. I mean, I did hear that you'd filmed a whole season in a weekend. Wasn't sure exactly how that worked, but now hearing it from your side of the perspective, it all makes perfect sense. But what I love so much about NWA is that it's got that classic style, but you guys, all of you from your roster, like I've interviewed Sienna, now I've got you in the can, which again is a huge honor for me. In hearing like all the stories about how free reign you guys have, even though NWA represents the classic and they pay homage to it every week, they still have that new flair and they don't really disrupt their talents' flow. They let their talents really breathe. And that's what I think is so refreshing about the product. Because, you know, you hear about all those other companies that kind of have the stranglehold on their talent when it comes to creative. But what I see when I watch Power every week is that the creative is allowed to flow through the wrestler. And I love that.
Absolutely. There's two things that came to mind as you were talking. Like, one, I just got to say the studio when you're inside, man, it just has this like aura about it. Like I made sure to take a good 15 minutes before doors had opened. I left my phone in the locker room, and I just went out and just stood in the empty studio and just looked around at all the lights and the flags and the cameras and the podium and the commentator's booth, and just really soaked it all in. And that ended up being the biggest day of my wrestling career thus far. Yeah, you know, and we do get creative control. You know, we were given ideas, and we're able to take the reins and ride with them a little bit. And I love that. And I'm still, you know, Nick writes checks that Zicky writes checks that Nick can't cash, you know? So like, once I get going, like I never know what's next. So it's cool that I'm able to just have a little control and just be able to rock and roll and get outlandish, if you will.
Absolutely, and that we'll get into the character aspect in a little bit, because I'm always intrigued about the incarnation of a character. We always hear that a character is an amped up version of yourself. Now, being the front man of a band, which you were, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Heart to Heart, right, was the name of the band?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I meant to say I hope I'm not wrong. So Heart to Heart, being a front man of a band, I mean, you've got to control the crowd, you've got to control an audience, you've got to flow with them. And even though the songs themselves are the story, there's always a prelude to each song. Like whenever I go to a concert and I see an artist that I really dig or really respect, there's always a story. You know, I wrote this song during this, or we wrote this song when it was this period kind of in our lives. So really the transition from being a front man to wrestling is not really that different. I mean, yes, the end game is different. Instead of going out on tours and playing shows, you're telling stories in the ring. Instead of singing the lyrics, you're showcasing the story without words. And almost really, it's a dance. It's an art form. And a lot of people don't understand and don't respect that.
Absolutely. I say my analogy is it's the same circus, different game. And I picked up a lot that I've learned through Heart to Heart and music and touring, and brought that to wrestling. And one of my strongest suits is connecting with the crowd, and that's something that I picked up through touring and from playing shows. And if anyone's ever seen Heart to Heart live, they'll agree with me on this one. There's nothing like a live Heart to Heart set. You think Zicky Dice is nuts? You should see me behind a microphone. I was like anywhere and everywhere but the stage. And I was always a huge fan of the live performance and the bands that would go absolutely nuts on stage, because like that's what I was watching. That's what it would draw me in, because you can feel the emotion. And that's one thing I am. I'm an emotional salesman. I sell feelings, you know, whether that's through Heart to Heart or wrestling. And I'm damn good at it. And, you know, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. So I'm thankful that I was able to learn what I learned through music and bring that over to wrestling. A little regretful that I didn't start wrestling a little sooner, but everyone has their own path, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at guys that have broken into the business late and the careers that they've gone on to have. I mean, one that sticks out in my mind, just because now he is going to the Hall of Fame, is a guy like Dave Bautista. Dave Bautista broke into the business in his late 30s. I mean, you can't forget about the icon of all icons, Diamond Dallas Page. He was literally 34 when he started. I mean, so it really goes to show that everyone does carve their own path, but late is never obsolete. Late, you can make it. You just got to take that time and you got to run with it best you can. And I think you have.
Questions I get, I'm sorry to cut you off, is like, it's so funny. One of the questions I get more is like, oh, well, how old are you? It's like, what? Like, why does that matter? You know, it's always like, how old are you? And I'm 32. I broke in at like 26. I finished up a tour, and a buddy of mine's like, dude, I think you should be a pro wrestler. And then I did. So I finished up on tour, packed up, and moved from California to Illinois, and went and trained at the Black and Brave in Davenport, Iowa. And I've been rock and rolling ever since. And that was 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago today, I was packing up, getting ready to figure out my move. I went to WrestleMania 31. Rollins won the belt, and 2 weeks later I moved and went and trained with him. And I knew breaking in late that that's one of the reasons why I went to Black and Brave. You know, I wanted to be trained by the absolute best. I wanted my resume to be different and better than everybody else's, in my opinion. And I knew that I was going to bust my ass, you know. And Rollins will tell you that he didn't think I would do that. He didn't think that I would take it serious. He thought that coming from the band world that I was just going to lollygag my way through all this and bullshit my way through it. And, you know, it wasn't until recently, you know, he actually texted me and said, "Hey, dude, I'm damn proud of you." You know, he's like, "You proved me wrong and everyone else with you." And he's like, "Keep rocking and rolling." And not to toot my own horn, but, you know, I'm the top graduate out of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. And I say that with pride. You know, I really want my hustle to motivate others from the school and others around me and other wrestlers that I'm on shows on, because if I can do this, anybody can. And that's the whole reason why, you know, I'm here talking about my story now, is I want to motivate others. So, yeah.
Hey, you know what? You motivated me. I mean, I've been a wrestling fan my entire life, and I've always wanted to do a podcast, but was always too scared. And then literally 2.5 years ago, almost 3, I was with a former buddy of mine. We're actually still good friends. He just was my former co-host. He's no longer my co-host. I kind of had to run it free. And I was just like, you know what, dude? We talk so much smack about wrestling. We sit there and we bitch about the product because we know the product so damn well. We bitch about what we like. We bitch about what we don't like because we're wrestling fans, and that's what we're allowed to do. We're allowed to just bitch inconsistently. And the internet has given everyone a great platform for that, because now you could bitch behind a keyboard in mommy's basement. So we started the podcast, and it's been a journey.
On Twitter as we speak right now. I got my first block today. I'm banned for 12 hours. So.
Oh, no. You got to tell now.
Bad. Someone was talking trash about me winning the title, and they said, "I want Zicky Dice to leave." And I said, "You're going to have a heart attack once you see when the future comes around." And they blocked me for that. Twitter.
Oh, Twitter. What's going on? I've seen people say way worse than that.
Outlandish. That's what I'm saying. I was like, dude, I was just warming up. No, but you're right. And I'm glad that I did, because just even flowing with you right now, not to kiss your ass, but it's great. You've got a great voice. You're flowing, and I'm happy to motivate. If I can do that with everybody else, whether it's wrestling, life, dude, so be it. You know, that's why I'm getting into this, like, literally to impact the world and leave my impact while I'm on this planet. So
talk to me about, I mean, you know, graduating for Black and Brave on the Indies for a little bit, and then you get the opportunity to go NWA. And how was that? Like the transition from kind of the indie side of stuff going into a mainstream promotion? Because now I recognize NWA as probably one of the top 5, not to name in any particular order.
No, I'm going to go ahead and just say I'm going to agree with you, because that is what I say. I say top 5 in the world. You know what I mean? Like I'm glad that you said that, because that it's definitely in that conversation now, which is cool. And how I got to NWA is a very, very funny story. So I guess I'll just dive right in. I was supposed to be in Florida, and for some reason that show had fallen through, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood had reached out prior about a date, but I told them I was already booked. I reached back out to Yuma over there, and I said, "Hey man, you got room on the November 3rd show for me?" And he's like, "Go ahead and come on down. We'll squeeze you in." I was like, "All right, cool." On the car ride there with my carload, we're talking about, you know, it's a 6-hour drive down from where I am. You know, we start talking about, you know, at this point, you know, I've been going around the country. I wrestled in South Korea in April. I'm still trying to get picked up by the bigger indie promotions. I'm still trying to get attention. Doing literally what I can when I can, and which is at all times, grind. We don't know what else to do, and all this and that. So we get to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I've been working there for about 3 years at this point, and I had not once ever gotten a promo. I never complained about it. I never asked. I just figured when my time would come that I would kill it. And that day they're like, "Hey, we need someone to film." "Oh, Zicky, you're here. Why don't you get dressed real quick and come cut a promo?" I was like, "All right." I went out there and said 6 words. I was immediately pulled into the back around the corner where I had met David Lagana and Billy Corgan. I had met them in passing once. I'd seen them come around Hollywood a time or two before within the last 2 years. And you know, Billy introduces himself to me, and he's like, "Man, look at you, your earring and sunglasses and your fanny pack." He's like, "What are you doing December 14th? And in my head, I was like, "Oh, me and my fiance just planned a snow trip." And I was all, "Absolutely nothing." He's all, you know, like, what the hell else am I going to say? And he's like, "Well, how would you like to work for me in the NWA?" And I said, "I would absolutely love that." And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll have Lagana reach out to you on Monday." I was like, "All right, cool." So I had a few buddies who saw me get pulled aside, and they saw who I was talking to, i.e. my carload. and they just knew, and they could tell by the look on my face, like what just happened, and it goes to show like that this is my path. I'm sitting there worrying about everything else, and lo and behold, a few hours later, I'm getting picked up for NWA. And I had been busting my ass in the gym, in the ring, getting my diet right, trying to get content, trying to get my name out there. And lo and behold, boom, there was in that moment. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what my plan was at NWA. So we showed up to the tapings and boom, get 2 victories right off the bat and like 8 promos. Come home, boom. Next taping, I just noticed the crowd reactions getting louder and louder, and boom, now you're talking to the NWA Television Champion. It's been a lot to process. It's super cool at the same time. It's hard for me to believe, but yeah, man, doing it.
Absolutely, you're doing it, and you're freaking killing it, man. So back to the character for a second, because like I said, everyone always says, they always go with the cliche answer, the character is just an amped up version of who I am. But you have so many layers to you, being the front man of Heart to Heart, and then bringing that kind of world, mixing it in with wrestling, and you have a great look, and you speak fantastically, and your promo skills are top notch. I love promos, but I also love guys who can back it up in the ring. My whole philosophy on wrestling is you gotta talk the talk, but you gotta walk the walk, and you do that in spades. So talk to me about, Outlandish Zicky Dice. Is that a true amped up version of you, or is there layers piled on layers mixed in with just a whole lot of creative juices?
Oh man, there's layers and layers and layers, and I am an odd character. I will tell you that. I always have been. I grew up wrestling freestyle and Greco-Roman, and that was because of pro wrestling that I got into. I freaking hate this term, amateur wrestling. Because it's not amateur by any means, but that's just the term we're stuck with. But freestyle Greco-Roman wrestling, wrestled in high school up until sophomore year. Then my dad had passed away in a car accident, and wrestling was our thing. So from there, I kind of got numb to the world and found music, right? And then from music, found punk rock and hardcore and started a band and did that. I struggle with PTSD, anxiety, depression. I love to make people laugh. I love to entertain. I like to, like I said earlier, make people feel certain types of ways. I like comedy movies. I am obsessed with like neon colors. I've always loved dice for some reason and cards when I was a kid. I was always drawn to that. I love magic. Like a fan of magic tricks and magicians, and it's all this stuff. I love music. I love R&B and 80s style music, and this is just my brain. This is my brain going. I explain my brain like the ride Space Mountain in Disneyland. If you've ever been on that ride, you go through the dark and there's like all these like stars coming at you constantly. That's my brain with ideas at all times. It's hard for me to shut down. I have a very creative mind, and I put that to work in Zicky Dice, and it wasn't always the Zicky Dice you see today. First, evolution of Zicky Dice, I came out, I was like wearing white pants and thought I was this casino pit boss, and then I was like, okay, and people were calling me Bray Wyatt or part of the Wyatt family. I had a big red beard and like these white pants and like my brown hair slicked back. I was like, okay, I don't know, and we're evolving. So we started, and then I went into trunks, and then hit the gym, and then decided to bleach my hair and pierce my ear, and then I said the word outlandish one day and added that to the character. So it's the wheel just keeps going, and I don't know what it's going to be like tomorrow. I'm just going to keep evolving and having fun with the character, but amped up times a million, dude. Like this character and some of the promos I cut and get into, the feeling sometimes, like I don't know, they come from some weird places. So it's just a mix, dude. Like we could literally talk and interview for days on my story and everything. I always try and give like an in-depth synopsis of it, the short version, but here we are. So yeah.
No, man. I mean, honestly, you're a humble cat. You're absolutely fantastic to talk to. We're about halfway through right now, and I'm just having a blast. I as a fan first, to get the chance to talk to people that you appreciate and you respect so much in this business, it's humbling because they're giving you your time, and you want to make sure you tell their story in the greatest light. And that's what I think the podcast and the platforms are about. I love listening to podcasts. Even though I have my own, I listen to a whole bunch of others. Sure. And here in the Ontario indie scene in Canada, we have literally some of the best homegrown talent, plus the best voices for a generation. I actually believe you talked to one of my fellow podcasters, guilmytalk. He is absolutely fantastic, Justin Guillemette. He's amazing. And he had you on the show, and that's when I kind of was like, man, he got Zicky Dice. That's super cool. And then I shared that post on Instagram, and that's how easy it was, man. It was super easy. And again, I just can't say thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Like, and I'm all about DIY, you know, like I'm still grinding, dude. I'm still being left on red. You know, I'm still trying to squeeze into certain places. Like, so I get it. And I always want to be able to help and give back. You know, so I think this is like, since I've debuted on NWA, this might be like my 48th or 49th podcast or interview I've done. And I'm literally trying to it's an outlandish takeover, man, whether the world likes it or not. So better hop on board so you can say, hey, I knew him when.
Absolutely, man. I'm going to say I knew him when, and I was his first championship interview. That's going to go down in history.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know what is interesting about the television title for NWA is I look at it much like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I look at it much like the Intercontinental title in WWE. And the reason I say that is because anybody who holds the Intercontinental title in WWE has one time or another either gotten a title shot or won the championship. And I look at the television title as the same thing. It's a prelude to where the eventual end game will be. And I see that for you. I don't know if it'll be against Aldis, but
baby, if you don't think I've got tricks up my sleeve to get 7 wins in a row and become the NWA heavyweight champion and have the 10 pounds of pink, you've got another thing coming. I'm not afraid of Nick Aldis, and I'm not afraid of winning 7 matches in a row. I would say future, but I'm just going to go ahead and scratch that. I am a megastar, and I know that, and the world is about to find out. And it's happening. It's happening. They're getting woke as we speak. You know, well, I guess you just got to follow the journey.
Well, the journey's already been as epic as it is. It's definitely the most entertaining part of NWA is you and the women's division and Nick Aldis and everything. Actually, the whole package, everything that Billy Corgan is doing over there is so refreshing and so fantastic. And the fact that he's bringing these talents and giving them a platform, it's undescribable. And like I said, very quickly having them come back and be named in the top 5, it's not a small feat. It's because of hard work, dedication, and showing a sleek and polished production. And that's what you guys have. You guys have that in spades. And everything you do is very intelligent. Plus, again, the creative freedom. When you let your talent have that creative freedom, you can actually watch them grow and blossom. They will shine, and they will shine for you. And everybody on NWA's roster is doing that. And they're bringing back some names that I had long forgotten, like Melina. They brought her back, and everything they're doing with Rosemary, and everything they're doing with you, and everything they're doing with all this, everything is just fantastic. And the product keeps getting better. It keeps getting more entertaining. It's almost become, for me, a struggle to watch any other promotion next to you guys and ROH and AEW. A lot of other promotions are going to leave those ones off the table, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. They're a struggle to watch because of the creative stranglehold. When I can see creative freedom blossom as a fan, that makes me excited because that's when I literally don't know what's going to happen. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I agree. You know, the show is still very new and we are growing by the week. You know, we're pushing. We've got an arena show, you know, so we're going out of the studio. And last year, Crockett Cup was ran with ROH. This year, we're doing it by ourselves. You know, so really trying to push the limit here and see where we're at. You know, so if we're coming to Atlanta, 4/19/20 for the Crockett Cup. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, I highly recommend doing so for anyone listening around. And it's going to be worth it. And, you know, that's you know, the biggest show of my career coming up. So, and another thing I got to go ahead and just plug, if you're not already watching NWA Power every Tuesday, go ahead and head to youtube.com/NWA and hit subscribe because just clicking subscribe goes a long way, not only for myself, but the NWA. And that's what we're trying to do is grow. And I mean, this is just the beginning.
I got 3 accounts on YouTube. I got Straight Talk, I got my personal one, and I got my daughter's. And all 3 are subscribed.
Boom.
All three.
I'm talking about. Thank you.
No problem. So, let's talk about that. Let's talk about fans and stuff like that, because kayfabe's been broken for a while, and everybody knows a true heel or a true face is not necessarily a true heel or the true face. You'll see faces and heels signing autographs and stuff like that now. So the kind of whole fifth wall is broken down. But then there are some wrestlers out there who are still holding true to the old style. One in particular would be MJF. There's been a lot of talk about him lately, about him at an autograph signing with a little boy and his father. And right before the picture was taken, he flipped off the little boy. Now, back in the day, mind you, that would have been kayfabe for sure, 100%, because heels didn't sign autographs. But now it's a little bit more mainstream, and it's very pop culture again. And it's a great time to be a fan and be a performer, because there's so much platforms out there for you guys. There's YouTube, like you mentioned, Facebook, plus the streaming services, Instagram, Twitter. There's all kinds of facets out there to find anything you want on your favorite superstar. In terms of, kayfabe and somebody like MJF keeping kayfabe together, trying to bring it back to where it's that heel face dynamic and you stay in character all the time. Is that something you kind of buy into, or do you like to just kind of let your hair down every once in a while and turn Zicky Dice off if you get the opportunity?
Well, man, I was just having this conversation with a friend. I love MJF to death. I think he's great, and what he's doing is great. And I would love to do that all the time. But at the same time, my band just released a record recently on In Vogue Records, Heartbreaker, which is out now. I'm trying to push that. I've got I've worked with adults with developmental disabilities for the last 13 years and made a lot of friends and, met a lot of awesome people through there. So a lot of these people who follow and engage, I guess, wouldn't understand that. So it's hard for me to be an asshole all the time, but push a record, when someone when a non-wrestling fan wouldn't understand what's going on. You get what I'm saying? So it's tough. I just, to answer your question, I think letting the hair down and having fun, I'll do whatever the hell I want, whenever the hell I want to, just to be clear. But yeah, I'll let the hair down every once in a while, have a little fun.
Does it hard for you sometimes when you're out and about and stuff like that? Because, NWA, like you said, you're growing week to week. The numbers are getting better. You guys are doing your first arena show, the Crockett Cup. I can't wait for that. I'll be streaming it for sure, 100%. In terms of, when you're out in the street, is it take you back? Sometimes people are like, oh, my God, hey, Zicky, can I grab a picture real quick? Is that still kind of surreal for you? Or are you like, yeah, man, let's do it?
That just started happening. A funny story that just I was in Iowa this past weekend. I was visiting a Black and Brave, and I had went out with the buddy Steve Manders. He wanted to show me a little Iowa good time. So we were leaving the bar, and these two girls were walking up, and I had slipped on this ice block, and boom, slapped face first right on the cement in the snow, and I get up and my buddy's like, hey, there's this dude staring at you. And these girls were like, oh my God, are you okay? And they were very nice and very helpful. And I was laughing, I was like, oh, that sucks. And this dude was like, hey, is that a $16,000 fanny pack? And I turned my head all extreme and I looked at him. He's all, are you Zicky Dice? and I was like, yeah, man. I was like, how you doing? And he shot me a message on Instagram immediately. And he was like, hey, dude, he's like, if you let me win that fanny pack giveaway, I won't tell anyone I saw you fall in the snow face first. I was like, dude, I do not care. I had people, for the first time, I was at the airport the other day in Chicago, and they're like, hey, Zicky. It was 4 a.m. They said, I was like, hey, fellas, how you doing? So it's interesting to see that start happening, but deep down, I'm a pretty humble dude and pretty easygoing fella. So I don't know. That's cool. Say what up. If you see me, no problem. Whatever. Make it brief. Don't get weird, and we'll be all right.
Absolutely, man. That's what you got to, sometimes, you geek out a little bit. It's like, oh my God, he's a wrestler. He's super cool. It's like, nah, man, they're just real people like us. And if you approach them respectfully, then they will approach you respectfully.
Exactly. What comes, the good with the bad, So, yeah, I meet a lot of good people. And, yes, I do meet my fair share of weirdos. I hate to say it, but some of you fans are so weird, man. And make weird requests, but
can you tell me if it can't go on the podcast? I understand. Can you tell me a super weird encounter with a fan? We don't have to mention names.
Sure. This dude was lingering around the merch table once, and he would barely make eye contact with me, and I was like, okay. And he's talking to me, bringing up some small talk, and I'm like, all right. And then I go outside, and he's like smoking a cigarette, and he's like looking down, and he's like, yeah, so my girlfriend really wants to meet you. And I was like, all right. So he brings her out, and she like hugs me all extreme. She's like holding, it was like kind of like a sexual type hug. It was very weird. And she was like very sweet, and like, she's like, it's so nice to meet you, whatever. And walks away. And then he like looks down, he pulls out another cigarette. It was like a movie scene. I'll like, I wish you could see this. And he lights it up, and he's like, do you want to have sex with my girlfriend with me tonight? And I was like, oh, excuse me. And I was like, because I knew something was coming, but I didn't know it was like that extreme. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I was like, at the time, I was like, I have a girlfriend, but thank you for the offer. I was like, outlandish, and and walked away. So that's the first one that comes to mind, really. Yeah. There's some weird instances.
So not to get too personal, you mentioned your girlfriend and stuff like that, and that's absolutely amazing to have that support system.
I'm getting married this year.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's right. You did mention fiance. My apologies, sir. You did mention fiance. That's amazing. You know what? I have been married to the same beautiful woman. We have 2 great daughters, and we've been married together for 11 years. We've been together since we were 18. I'm 36 now. So
hell yeah.
Yeah, and she's my support system. Sometimes, as stubborn as I could be, I had an incident at work today, which kind of put me in a little bit of a bummer mood. But I got upstairs. She just told me, "Hey, you know what? It is what it is. You can't think negative. You can't think anything bad's going to happen. All you can do is learn from it and grow. And now go downstairs and handle what your real passion is." So here we are. We're talking interview, and I've been in a great mood since we got on the phone.
I'm right there with you, man. I got to give a shout out to Chicken. I call my fiance Chicken. I've known her since I was 21 years old. We met through a mutual friend. We had stayed friends the entire time. She had her boyfriends. I had my girlfriends, and we always stayed friends, like I said. And there was one time we had hung out before the band was about to go on tour, and we had a great time. She had a boyfriend. It was a group hangout, but we had a great time. It was whatever. And then I had left for tour. I guess her boyfriend was a real piece of shit at the time, and he still is. But the ex, what we're talking about. But anyway, she had called me when the band was on tour, and she was like, I think she was sipping a little bit of some red wine, if I remember clearly. And I remember exactly where I was. I was in upstate New York, and I had went on a run to get a new toothbrush at the grocery store when my phone rang, and she never called me. And, I used to Snapchat her in between girlfriends. I would ask her out to dinner. Yeah, she knew what was up, And she had called me, and she said, it's a real shame that our clocks had never lined up. You were always so funny and so great and so nice, like whatever. And I was like, man, that phone call always like stuck with me. And 2 years ago, we passed each other. I asked her out to dinner. She said yes. And here we are getting engaged. Who knew?
That's how Zicky Dice handles his business. It's a slow game. It's a slow game.
Yeah, it's the law, and it's great, And even though we've only been honestly together for a year, we're about to hit a year next month of actually being like a couple and whatnot. We've known each other for so long, and we get along great. And I got to take my fanny pack off to her because without her, I would be insane right now. This has been when I say it's been hard for me to process these last few weeks. I lose sleep. I can't shut my brain down. I've got a lot of important decisions to make here soon. And if I didn't have her, I don't know what the hell I'd do. She's an accountant, so she's in tax season right now on top of that. So she leaves at 7 a.m. She's not home till 8 p.m. And then now she's working Saturdays. And guess what? I'm wrestling just around all around the country every weekend. So it's tough, but we make it work with each other, and she's, letting me go and get it. And she knows I work a little harder. Daddy will be paying the bills here soon. So.
Absolutely, man. And that's what it's about. The support system is huge when you have that somebody who can keep you straight and narrow. One question I do want to ask, because I'm always intrigued by this. You mentioned earlier how you want to give back, and I think that's fantastic. If there is a young fan, boy or girl, male or female, however you want to word it, listening, and they want to break into this amazing business, But there is a grind to it. There is a struggle to it. Not everything comes easy. You know that as well as I do. You broke into it late. It was, a journey, but you're here now and you're just getting started. And your train is not stopping anytime soon. And I can't wait until we do this again, I don't know, in 4 years. And I'm talking to the NWA World Champion. It's going to be a lot sooner than that. I know it will be. But I'm just saying, hypothetically down the line. But if there's some piece of advice, some piece of wisdom that Zicky Dice can pass forward to these young fans that may want to break into this business someday, the next generation of this already great generation, what would you say to that young fan?
I'm going to say if you're going to half-ass it, don't do it. You will lose money. You will lose sleep. You will lose friends. You will miss out on birthday parties. You'll miss out on weddings. You'll miss out on family events and gatherings. But I will say this is probably the best thing that's ever came out of my mouth. And I said it on a podcast recently. If you want it, go and get it because it's that simple. It won't be that easy, but it's that simple. And that's the best way I can put it. Just, go get trained by someone reputable, hit the gym, work on your promos in the car and in the mirror. Sometimes I'll be pushing a grocery cart and a promo idea will come in my head and I get into character in the line in the store like crazy, like whispering in my voice, and then I'll go on my phone and write it down. And these are all little things it takes. Like get up early, hop in the car with some boys, even though you're not on a show and get it figured out. Like just go make it happen. But at the same time, have fun and treat people with respect along the way. And that will go pretty far.
That's fantastic advice. You know what? And it's the humbling that really gets me. Zicky Dice has been an absolutely fantastic interview. I want to let you go enjoy your night very soon, but I do have 2 more questions that are burning a hole in my pocket, if I might. All right. The first question is dream match for Zicky Dice. Down the line, anybody that you want to get your hands on that you haven't yet, that you be licking your chops. And my second part to this question, if it ever comes to a point where the student can face the teacher, will you take Seth Rollins on one-on-one if your clocks, as Chicken put it, if your clocks can sync up?
That was actually my answer for the first question, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer both with the same. Yes, Seth Rollins is my dream match. I've wanted that from the beginning, and I still want it now, and I hope it happens somewhere someday. But yeah, that's the ultimate goal, as well as I'm trying to think if it wasn't him right now, who I really want to wrestle. If it wasn't him, man, probably Rick Martel or Mr. Perfect would be one of my all-time dream matches. I
could see you and Mr. Perfect cutting some serious, fantastic promos against each other. I really could see it.
I would love that. I got to say, though, if you're not already, please follow the outlandish journey that I call life. I made it nice and simple for everybody. It's at Zicky Dice on every piece of social media platform out there. Engage. I will engage back with you. If you see me out, say what's up. Give me a little outlandish logo, and we'll be all right. And you know what? As for now, I got to go control the television since I am the NWA World Television Champion. So thanks for having me, George, and we'll definitely be doing this again.
100%, brother. And if you haven't followed me, because I do follow you across all 3 platforms, please follow your boy back. And it was an absolute honor and pleasure talking to you today. Go control the television.
Yep. Send me a message and I'll get that handled for you. It's the least I can do.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. You go enjoy your night, okay?
Outlandish.
Take care, sir.
You too, bud.
Bye.
Wow. Amazing interview. Zicky Dice, such a class act. Great dude. Super humbling, and he's right. If you hit him up on any of his socials, he will engage with you. He did with me. It was that easy to set this thing up. I can't wait to see how far this guy's star goes. It's going to go so much brighter, and this was obviously pre-recorded. Again, it was pre-recorded a couple days after he won the television title, and the world was in a different landscape. I've been saying that a lot these last couple episodes because it was true. A lot of this stuff is pre-recorded, like I said, before the world went haywire. And I'm just trying to keep dropping content for you guys because you deserve it, and everybody deserves to forget for a little bit what is going on out there in the world right now. As always, I'm your host, your boy, George Mackay. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the socials, share, download, listen, retweet, and just keep digging on my podcast, man, because I do all of this for you guys. As much as I enjoy the interviews and the stories, bringing these talents to the forefront for you guys, my Straight Talk faithful, is the absolute most important thing for me. So as always, peace, love, and wrestling. Stay safe. Stay home if you can. And hopefully by the summer, we could be talking about the road to SummerSlam. We could be talking about all the great indie shows that are back up and running. And we could be talking about normalcy in life. As always, I'm your host, your boy. See you guys next week. Peace.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for another episode on Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. Also follow us on Facebook at Straight Talk Wrestling, on Instagram at Straight Talk Wrestling, and on Twitter at _Straight Talk. And for all our merchandise, you can search us on ProWrestlingTees.com.